about the fact that you guys are sticking with the status quo, or Kevin's sticking with the status quo, and continuing to go with Dylan instead of turning it over to Shedeur?
Quarterback direction has nothing to do with me. I'm worried about the defense and us giving up the points that we did and the first downs we did. Now, who we stick with the quarterback is up to Kevin.
Instant regret is hitting Myles Garret hard after the Browns' blowout loss to the Jets, and all eyes are on him for not standing up for Shedeur Sanders. Do you think Myles made a mistake by staying silent when the team clearly needed a leader to defend its quarterback? Or was he right to hold back and let the situation play out?
Phil, I think it's actually BS for Myles Garret, a leader of the team, to not keep it a buck, call out Kevin Stefanski, call out that trash, I'm about to say more, I can't say on YouTube, quarterback, and just keep it a buck, man. We know they need Shedeur Sanders. He was one of the ones that was telling Shedeur Sanders that he was needed, and now all of a sudden he says it's up to Kevin Stefanski. Makes no sense. These players are a lot softer.
Myles Garrett's response after the Jets game was exactly what the situation called for: honest, professional, and straight to the point. He didn't try to shift blame or stir up drama, but he made it clear where the real responsibility lies: Kevin Stefanski. When Myles says, "Quarterback direction has nothing to do with me," he's putting the spotlight where it belongs. The coaching staff makes these calls, not the players, and right now, Stefanski is sticking with Dillon Gabriel, even though the offense continues to sputter. That's on Stefanski, plain and simple. It takes guts for a star player like Myles to say that without adding fuel to the fire. He's focused on what he can control, the defense, and leaves the quarterback mess to the coaches. The fans seem to agree with Myles on this one. They see his stance as reasonable and mature. No wild accusations, no public outbursts, just the cold truth. After weeks of seeing the Browns struggle, it's easy to get caught up in blaming the players. But Myles reminds everyone that the real problem is higher up. Stefanski is the one who chooses the quarterback, calls the plays, and decides the team's direction. And if those decisions are wrong, the players can only do so much. Myles isn't here to gamble his career on a fight that belongs to someone else. He's focused on playing his part, and he expects the coaches to do theirs. Fans appreciate this kind of honesty, especially when so much of the team's frustration comes from poor leadership at the top. But this leaves a lot of questions hanging. How long will Stefanski keep ignoring the calls to put Shedeur Sanders in? How much longer will the Browns keep losing while the coaching staff sticks with a failing plan? If the star players aren't willing to publicly challenge the coach, who will? Is Myles' calm approach enough to push the front office to finally act? And what about the fans? How long will they tolerate watching the same mistakes week after week without seeing any real change? It's clear the blame isn't on the players like Myles, but if the coaching doesn't change, can this team ever really turn things around? Some fans are straight up frustrated with Myles Garret for not calling out Kevin Stefanski louder and clearer. As a leader of the team, many expected Myles to be more blunt, to keep it a buck and tell it like it is. Instead, he shrugged off the quarterback situation as up to Kevin, which to some feels like a cop-out. These fans believe Myles had a chance to stand up for Shedeur Sanders, the player many think deserves the chance to lead the Browns, but instead, he chose to stay quiet. They feel like the players today are softer, less willing to speak up and challenge the coaching staff when things go wrong. Back in the day, the leaders wouldn't hesitate to call out bad decisions and hold people accountable. But now, it seems like everyone is too careful to risk rocking the boat. The frustration is real because fans see the Browns stuck in the same cycle. Shedeur was the clear favorite to take over at quarterback, the one who could bring energy and a spark. Yet the coaches keep going back to Gabriel, who has repeatedly failed to deliver. Fans expected Myles, being one of the team's top players, to push harder for the change. After all, leaders aren't just there to play the game. They're supposed to push the team forward, demand better, and speak up when things aren't working. But with Myles stepping back, it feels like the players are silently accepting Stefanski's poor choices, and that silence only lets the problems grow bigger. So the big question is, why won't the leaders on this team stand up and speak out? Is it fear of losing their spot, loyalty to the coach, or just plain unwillingness to get involved in the drama? How long will the Browns let this soft culture hold them back from making the changes everyone knows are needed? If Myles Garret can't find the courage to call out Stefanski, then who can? And what message does that send to the rest of the team and the fans? At this point, it's clear that silence isn't helping anyone. It's just allowing the Browns to stay stuck in the same losing pattern. The Cleveland Browns faced off against the New York Jets in a matchup between two struggling teams, combining for just 3 wins this season. The Jets came into the game without a home win, and after trading away 2 key defensive players. Despite all this, the Browns couldn't capitalize on their advantage. The Jets only managed 1 offensive touchdown and a mere 42 passing yards, while Cleveland outgained New York 278 to 169 yards and held the Jets to just 3.6 yards per play. On paper, the Browns looked dominant on both sides of the ball. But here's the real question. If the Browns controlled the game so well, why did they still lose? How do you outgain a team by over 100 yards and still come up short? Why did the offense struggle to turn those yards into points? How is it possible to hold a team like the Jets to such low production, yet give up 2 special teams touchdowns? What does this say about the coaching and game plan? And most importantly, when will the Browns start making the smart decisions that turn these advantages into wins? The Browns' offense struggled once again, showing no signs of improvement. Gabriel missed a lot of throws and hesitated to make plays beyond 10 yards, making it hard for the team to move the ball effectively. While he didn't throw any interceptions, he still made many risky plays that could have led to turnovers. On top of that, Gabriel's decision-making got worse this week, and the offensive line couldn't protect him, allowing 6 sacks. Gabriel often failed to read the defense or escape pressure, which killed any chance for the offense to get going. The blame has to fall on Stefanski and his coaching staff for sticking with Gabriel despite these repeated struggles. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders waits on the sidelines, ready to bring energy and a fresh look to the offense. It's clear Gabriel isn't the answer, yet Stefanski refuses to make a change. How long will the Browns keep accepting slow, hesitant play from their quarterback? When will Stefanski realize that Shedeur is the better option who can move this team forward? The Browns' offense won't improve until the right player gets the chance to lead.
Than they was back in the day. I can tell you guys that for sure. Back in the day, we would have guys that really would lead the team, keeping it a buck as far as what answering certain questions. You know, you had players like Marshawn Lynch back in the day would come to the podium and say, "I'm here just so I don't get fined." I mean, you know, now all of a sudden you got some of these players like Jerry Jeudy, Myles Garrett. They just say all the political things or political answers that sounds good for the team's sake. But I mean, at this point, what are you actually saving for the Cleveland Browns? They are continually losing games every single week.
Back in the day, players didn't sugarcoat anything, they kept it real and spoke up, even if it meant shaking things up. Guys like Marshawn Lynch didn't care about giving political answers. They told the truth because that's what a leader does. Now, you've got players like Jerry Jeudy and Myles giving the safe, politically correct answers that sound good but don't mean anything. What are they really protecting? The truth or Kevin Stefanski's failing system? The Browns keep losing every week, and nobody seems willing to say why. How long will the players keep pretending everything's fine while the team falls apart? Is this silence helping the Browns at all? Why won't anyone stand up and demand change? How long will Stefanski get to call the shots when it's clear the offense is stuck and Shedeur is ready to lead? Are the players too scared to rock the boat or just too loyal to a coach who's clearly failing? When will someone finally put the team first and start winning again? If the Browns want to turn things around, they need honesty, leadership, and the right quarterback. And that quarterback isn't Gabriel. It's time for Stefanski to make the change everyone knows he should make.
Browns insider Tony Grossi took to social media to raise his frustration after the game, putting it on Shedeur Sanders when instead of actually speaking about Dillon Gabriel. One person stated a QB on the roster was graded a first rounder, cough, cough. And then Browns insider Tony Grossi said by no NFL team. Shout out to Magical Way on Twitter. He says at Tony Grossi, "Is this you? You was the one who said Cleveland should take Shedeur."
Browns insider Tony took to social media to blast Shedeur Sanders after the game, instead of holding Dillon Gabriel accountable for the poor performance. But here's the irony. Tony was one of the loudest voices before the draft, saying Shedeur was a surefire top 2 quarterback pick for Cleveland. Now, suddenly he's changing his tune and throwing Shedeur under the bus after one bad game. Sounds more like someone trying to save face than telling the real story. Meanwhile, Stefanski keeps playing Gabriel, who clearly isn't ready, and letting the offense fall apart. How does that make any sense? Why is Tony quick to criticize Shedeur but silent about Gabriel's mistakes? Did Stefanski convince him to switch sides just like he refuses to switch quarterbacks? How many more times will these insiders flip-flop before they actually stick to the truth? If Shedeur was supposed to be the future, why isn't he getting the chance to prove it? And if Gabriel is the guy Stefanski trusts, why is the offense so weak and slow? Tony and Stefanski both look like they're protecting their own mistakes instead of fixing the Browns. When will they stop roasting the player who could save this team and start holding the real problem accountable? The fans aren't buying the excuses anymore. They see through the blame game and want action, not silence or spin from insiders and coaches. Shedeur Sanders deserves a real chance, and until Stefanski and the Browns stop protecting failure, this team will keep losing. If you're tired of the same old story, subscribe and like for more honest takes. Do you think the Browns will finally give Shedeur the shot he deserves, or will they keep holding on to the past?